cannot afford to miss a single moment of the next hour. Get ready to have your ideas about sexuality, love, and relationships blown wide open. It's time to get educated, entertained, and enlightened, as well as sexually empowered. You have now tuned into the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show. Now, here's your host, Tanya Diamond.
I can be laughing when I start this because, wow, how do you spell toughness?
T-O-U-G-H.
Yeah, kind of like when you're typing and getting ready to be on the show at the same time. It's kind of like edgy or something. This is what we do for excitement here at the radio show. See if we can beat the clock before Ian says, and you're on. 5 seconds to go. All right, so of course we have Joshua, who's, here, and my very best friend, Craig, is back. Hello, Craig.
Hi, Tanya, Josh.
Isn't it funny? Craig, I wave at him from across the table. Hey, Craig.
Glad to be here.
So, Craig, my best friend, and I wouldn't be where I am without you, and,
Thank you.
You know how I feel about you, and
yes.
It's an awesome thing. And
I like hearing that.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, because you're auditory.
Yep.
So you love those words of appreciation, and I'm happy to give them to you. And you've also been a student of mine for our anniversary is coming up in April.
Yes.
What's it going to be?
2 years.
That's going to be 3.
You sure?
I think so.
Ooh.
Is it going to be 3?
Wow.
2007.
Time flies.
2010. Yeah, 3 years.
Fabulous.
Wow. 3 years ago. 3 years ago. What were you like?
Before?
Yeah, before.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, that's...
what were you like before?
Scary for me to even go back there.
Wait a minute. Let me call up that document, because I remember that first radio show. I was listening to it the other day.
Yes. Fear.
Fear
dominated.
Well, what does that present like? Because,
Fear, the biggest fear was rejection. Fear of rejection, which is very common out there.
Really? You think?
Yeah.
But you're not just talking about sexual rejection. You're talking about just rejection in general.
It's all included. Fear of sexual rejection, fear of personal rejection. It was pervasive. Business, everything.
So what does somebody look like? Because you looked pretty normal. I mean, when I met you, you were standing at an event. It was the Northwest Women's Show.
Right.
And you had all these products out in front of you.
Right.
You had a booth.
I was even speaking at the show on stage.
Speaking on stage,
yeah.
And, you were doing golf things, products are for golf, right?
And
at that
promoting
point?
my hypnosis practice.
So now you break 80 without practice?
That was not at the women's show.
No?
But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was selling that on.
Right, so you
separately.
had your things.
Yeah.
So, wow, who would have thought you were scared of anything?
I know. People are very good at masking these things, aren't they?
Well, yes.
Some of them.
They are.
At times. So you hang around them long enough, it comes out.
True. But you didn't look scared, right? And you were like doing your thing and you were having a good life?
Reasonable. I certainly was not where I wanted to be or my true self with regards to relationships. No.
Okay. But your business, how it was doing?
It was cooking along. I was I was on track.
Right. Because you had jumped ship from your other career.
Right. I used to be a corporate manager and bailed out to be an entrepreneur, internet marketer, then hypnotist, and was expanding on both of those at the time. Yeah.
Right.
I was living the dream.
Right. And with all those products, which really tantalized me.
I remember. But I remember I was so attracted to you because I distinctly remember, you know things I need to know. I had just been divorced 6 months earlier.
Yeah.
And knew that I needed something, instruction, guidance. I was kind of lost in that area.
Well, it was kind of weird intervention, too, because I didn't know you. And the reason I stopped was because the guy you were hanging out with in the booth he was one of the assistants at my NLP practitioner class.
Right.
And so I stopped to say hi to him, even though he and I didn't get along very well. And then there you were, and I'm like seeing your face on these products and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow. I was so amazed, right? Because, I had just broken into the whole internet thing. I was building my first website, and I was a techno spaz, and I'm looking, oh my God, he's got CDs. Oh, like, did you make these? I was like, just so tantalized. So we started talking, and you found out what I did. And I found out what you did, and then you said to me, I'm like, oh my God, what, you've got these, and, stars in my eyes, and you were talking to me like, you do what? And you said to me, teach me
Right.
to be a man.
Right. Absolutely. Those were the words.
Right.
Exactly.
And I'm like, well, teach me to make CDs. And you're thinking to yourself, whatever, how hard was that, right?
Exactly. I thought I'm getting the better deal here.
Right. That's a good equitable exchange. Where you both feel like you're getting more from the other than you're giving, and you're giving as much as you can.
Right. And I was looking at him, going, "Oh my God, you can make like these books and these products and this internet thing. Oh my gosh, you're like the god." And so we started off on this friendship with feeling like we'd met somebody that was giving as much as we were receiving.
Which was shocking.
Yeah. So it was kind of the first for both of us in that realm, just to be met in that space.
Right.
And
because of my fear of rejection, I had spent years after splitting up, or maybe it wasn't years at that point. It's been years up until recently.
Yeah.
Trying to please women, trying to do for them in order to gain acceptance.
Right.
And through you, I basically learned how to live your true self and be okay with that.
Yeah, because
good with that.
and because then, it was funny because we had our first trial run because there was somebody you were interested in,
right?
That was showing up,
right
and I said, oh well, yeah, no problem. You want to sleep with her? I know how to show you how to do that. I said, but you'll be thinking about me.
And it turned out pretty good that night. Thank you very much.
Right. So, but we started on that path of you teaching me what I know today about internet marketing and building websites. I actually found out that I'm a geek. I happily found out that I'm actually a geek and really enjoy it. And you found out that you actually were a man.
How about
just
that?
Not living your truth.
Yeah, it was all covered up and hidden, and I did a lot of hiding throughout my life.
Right.
I learned how to come out from that.
So what do you think? We both work in industries where we are helping people, because you're a hypnotist, and your specialty right now is mental toughness,
right,
in sports, right?
Sports and business performance, yes.
Sports and business performance. And so we cross some arena in the business performance world where
fear crosses everywhere.
And fear is the thing.
Right.
In my world, it's the place I go.
Right.
I was counseling a couple the other day, and at the end, when I looked at them both and said, you're both just coming from fear, and they were able to look at each other, and I said, what would it feel like to just be scared? Just look at each other and go, oh my God, I'm scared.
And be vulnerable to
right. And they did, and they felt so connected that they had come to the bases of their fear, that they were both navigating from fear instead of anything else. So whether it's criticism or acting out or anger, whatever it is, usually underneath is the fear.
Well, you taught me how to take that to the next level. I mean, it's easy to say, let go of your fear and don't operate from fear. It's easy to say that, but to get that in your body is another thing. But what really allowed that basic teaching you just mentioned to get into my body was to go a step further in hearing you. And somehow you got into my body. I don't know how. My unconscious mind.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. She has that way.
Not only just don't live in fear, but bring it on. I want to feel it.
Well, because
that's what you really taught me.
Every book out there
I want to feel it.
That we read is generally how to rid yourself of fear.
Right.
Well, the reality is you don't get rid of fear. You learn to live in it or be in it or express it like every other emotion. You learn to listen to the fear that's important, like you're walking down the road and something alerts you, and it's dark and stuff. This might be an important fear. You don't actually want to eradicate fear because, but you want to be able to understand that when you feel afraid, how you react in your body, how you feel it in your body, and how to embrace it, own it, and move forward anyway.
Right.
There's no magic bullet, right? Really, the reality is you're scared, and if you start movement, you'll get where you're going.
Yep. But if you really ask, like lately, it's about bring it on. I want to feel some. That allows you to just be totally vulnerable. When you're vulnerable, then you're not, you can communicate to a partner, even if it's just a friend or a business associate. If you say, bring on the fear, cool, I can feel this. I wonder what that'll be like. And then you can just lay out your cards on the table. You can expose yourself. There's nothing to be afraid of. That's why I'm not afraid to be on your show here. It's like, what are you going to do to me?
Right, exactly.
There's nothing, I have no...
You're an open book, so you're excited to any discovery.
Thank you. You got it. That's right.
And the bridges that result from any of that disclosure.
And I used to be Mr. Secrets. I'd hold secrets in, and all that does is just create more fear.
Right, because you're always on the defense about somebody might find out something or they might see something.
Right.
People don't want to be really seen that are hiding things. They don't want to be asked a lot of questions.
Right.
They don't want to show up as much as they could be present with somebody else in case they're looking in their eyes and they're seen. All of those things. And men generally get angry when they're scared. So there's two ways. Either they totally withdraw or they get angry. And
yeah,
so
I did the withdraw thing.
Yeah, and so we have a lot of angry men wandering the planet or withdrawn men. And, when I was working with that one couple, I said, when he does this thing, it's because he's scared. And he's looking at me like, oh my God, yeah. And it's easier when that adrenaline hits for a lot of men to go to anger than it is to go to that thorough
What do
place.
you do, Josh?
What do I do?
Yeah, when you feel that fear.
When I feel that fear?
Or in the past, what did you used to do?
I used to get really rigid, kind of put the brakes on. I'm not going to participate. I'll tear this house down before I willingly do something I know is wrong and, or that I don't think is a good idea or, I'm afraid. So I either will, clench my teeth or just go really silent and passive. I'm going to go do my own thing. Talk to you in a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's pretty interesting stuff. Now, a lot of times people don't realize that they're making their decisions based on moving away from fear instead of moving towards something they want.
Sure.
Right? And that's common. You see it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I see it a lot. And how do you think, when did you have an aha moment about the fact? You knew you wanted to be a man, but that's because you felt small.
I've had many aha moments. Be specific here.
Well, the one where, so when you started your business, we have the thing we've talked about with you being corporate or seeing the birdies, which is like when you got afraid that you weren't making money or something, you would just go to this rigid mindset of action without any body feeling.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So very much in your head.
Right.
And I say that knowledge is in your head and mastery is in your being. All right? And so you had knowledge and you're using your knowledge to push forward in your business, but the results weren't happening. Right? You'd have some results, but it was like...
Sure.
And remember one of our conversations where you... in fact, we was on the radio at lunch, right? Where you said you'd been in that corporate space again, just pushing forward away from the fear of not having money, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, man, I'm doing it again, right?
Yep.
And then how long to take results? When you change your mindset and all of a sudden have mastery in your being and let go of the fear and move towards what you want, results happen.
Well, the aha came with the birdies. And that's a quick, to make the story short, it was just one day I was driving home and things were just going great. At least I felt that way and was perceiving that. There was no major, I didn't win the lotto, didn't meet the girl of my dreams or anything, but I was calling you and telling you all this great stuff. And I said, hey, I think I just can stay in this. And you were like, there you go. About effing time, right? Are you allowed to cuss on this? I don't know.
Yeah, like that you can.
Oh, okay.
No, you can't even do that. No, he's going to dump that.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
You can say flipping, though, probably. Yeah, like I just did.
Anyway, the next morning, this was the craziest thing. I woke up I with a big old smile, and I'm looking outside my window, and there's this big maple tree with a bird feeder, and birds were all flitzing around it. And I'm watching them, and I'm thinking it's the most amazing thing in the world. And
something
I'm
you had
laughing.
not done before.
This had never happened. I literally got the tears and thinking this is. And then one of the birds comes to the window, like, "Way to go, dude!" And
Nice job.
I'm not going to say I talked to the bird, but maybe something providential.
It enhanced the moment.
Exactly.
Now, and I have
so
to
that
say,
was big. And it was a letting go.
You are not a woo-woo person.
No.
You and I, it's so funny because, I'm not, and part of the reason you like me is I'm not really out there either that way, but, I do believe in this esoteric philosophy of, Tantra and energy. But you've been moving more to understanding that and moving more to this energy thing, the birdies, that's curious.
I think it's a natural progression. When you have that intention, I want to expand my creative side. I want to see what this connection between body and mind is. I want to feel. It's all interrelated, and you just keep going, and it just kind of happens. It kind of hits you.
Now you've been
you don't have to try.
You've been one of my more challenging students too.
Well, all right. I'll take that
Did she
heat.
just really say that?
I did. My best friend, my more challenging student, because what I love about it, Craig, is that you'll do some practices and then you'll say, oh, whatever, right? And then oh look, my results aren't working. Oh, back to the practices. Oh, look, that works. So actually, it's pretty cool that it's taken you a little bit longer than somebody that's just jumping on. But from where you came, because you told me I wouldn't have even liked you.
No. I tell all my friends now they wouldn't have.
Closed, rigid, judgmental.
Yep.
Alcohol.
Yep.
All of this.
All that. Stressed out. Yep.
Yeah. And,
everything's black and white, rules, and even religion was a huge part.
Right.
Yep.
And now you're more open to
right.
most things.
Right. That's the biggest thing I keep telling myself, and I'm not perfect at it, and I just keep saying, stay open, stay open, stay open. What's there to learn here?
Mm-hmm.
What's there to feel? Bring it on. Let's see what's going on next.
And not being afraid of feeling something.
Right.
And
that's the start of it all.
I know.
That's the thing you really have to tell yourself regularly and often that you want that intention, and understand that there's some really great benefits to it, which keeps you going.
Right. And so most men that I talk to, they're afraid to feel because it's something they're not familiar with, really, to really feel, and they're afraid they're going to lose control.
I'm convinced from the work I've done that men don't want to feel because they're the more sensitive sex, and it hurts them more.
I agree. I completely
because they
agree.
have no tools whatsoever how to deal with them, they go back to default, which is what society teaches us. Shut it all down, buddy.
Get up, stop crying, be a man.
That's right.
Right? This is what mothers program their sons to do. You're fine, get up off the ground, no problem. Chin up, don't cry, be a man. And even,
you learn it in Little League and football and sports and all that.
Yeah. So I do agree with you about men being really sensitive. And if you go back to evolution where men are, have the startle reflex, 5 times the startle reflex that girls do, because they're hunters, they're supposed to be aware and supposed to be, on, right? Tuned in.
I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. That makes such sense.
Right. And so consequently, when a woman faces a man and says, we need to talk, he dumps adrenaline.
Right.
He's totally flipped out. And men can't think when they're in adrenaline.
Totally makes sense.
So,
I never thought of that.
Yeah. So what happens then is as the warriors, as the hunters, as the men that are supposed to be acute in tune to what's happening in the world, so you're not taken off guard, without the tigers to fight and all the things you need to do, all we have now is the shutting down, the not feeling, the going to your head. But even women are told they should be in their head. Oh, you're too emotional, right? Somebody said to me once, why is your daughter so emotional? It's like, isn't it great? No, that's not what they were saying.
They were looking at you for a different response.
Right, exactly, But the reality is we are emotional. We are emotional beings, and shutting your emotions down, your feelings down, they will come out somewhere. And it's usually not in a good way. Do we agree on that?
Yeah,
oh my God. This is everyone who comes to see me is usually for that reason.
Right. And people think it's for all sorts of, people that have phobias, panic attacks, people that can't get ahead in business, people whose relationships are failing.
People who have medical issues that doctors have no ideas about.
Yeah.
Fibromyalgia, IBS,
right.
Whole loads of unexplainable pains.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I've talked on the show before about this, but I had a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. Back in 91, I had a head injury, and I didn't recover from the car wreck. And finally, after 2 years of the most extensive tests available, because I was in great shape, and they thought, well, I was just working out really hard, trying to get over this feeling of crapping all the time, feeling horrible. And they thought I had a blood clot in my lung or a brain tumor. I mean, my God, the things they looked for before they came out with, you have fibromyalgia, which back then was kind of it felt like a death sentence. Mm-hmm. You're going to be in this excruciating pain for the rest of your life.
Right. We don't know how you got it, and we don't know how you get rid of it.
Get used to that now. And it's supposedly incurable.
I want to ask you guys now, if you don't mind me changing here. Yeah. I came here to learn some things.
Yeah.
And I get the whole emotion things, and I teach this for performance reasons. I want you guys to now connect the dots here for sex, love, and intimacy.
Well, that's what I'm going to do.
All right.
He's hitting the sex question again.
I know.
So how does this relate to sex?
That's what I'm going to do. When I tell you that this story that I started with fibromyalgia, having this, being diagnosed with this, accepting this sentence that a doctor said, which is like accepting your programming, accepting your parents, accepting an authority telling you this is how it is, right? At one point had to make a decision to change. Now, we all have to make that decision at some point, right? Okay, all of us have poor programming. That's a given. How many people were raised by great parents? And your parents are great, but they still had dysfunctions or programming.
Right.
Yes?
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
And at my, the saying is when you're a child, you're a victim, and when you're adult, you're a volunteer. Okay, so if you are an adult listening to this show and you have bought into a diagnosis, a situation, a circumstance, or a belief, you're volunteering. And I do believe that disease, a lot of diseases, this will piss a lot of people off out there, we do bring on. Right? Just like the circumstances in our life, just like our partners, just like our love lives, just like our businesses, just like everything, our belief system creates our circumstances, not the other way around.
Belief system. BS. Belief system. Oh, sorry. I was just thinking about that.
Just a minute. Wait, does belief system equal BS? So.
Oh, cool. Ian didn't delete that.
No, BS is okay.
Oh, okay.
So if that's the case, and we've got these erroneous thoughts and erroneous principles or beliefs in our head, and you're saying, how does this all relate to sex? Well, guess what? Your way you're going to have a relationship is role modeled by your parents, or the lack of role modeling from your parents, and your beliefs about yourself. We've got the 5 levels of Tantra, of modern Tantra. Mm-hmm. Tantra of awareness. So are we aware we're in the universe? Tantra of self, are we filled up ourselves, or are we living in fear? And how we go into relationship is directly in relation to how we navigate ourselves personally. So if you start in lack and you're looking for other people to fill you up, it's not going to work.
Oh, boy, do I get that.
Right. A lot of people have relationships out of fear. Right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? That means, wow, I'm scared to be alone. Oh, I'm scared to never have sex again, or I'm scared to not be connected, or whatever. Oh my God, this person kind of likes me.
Tanya's looking at me when she's saying that. She's glancing at my way, Mr. Tantric Celibate Man. Yes, we've been talking about that this week. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And it's that fear of being alone, that fear of not being validated by somebody else, that a lot of times makes people jump into relationships that are not appropriate, that are not, and when I mean not appropriate, that are not in personal alignment, that don't work for them. Or fear keeps you out of relationships, like picking people on the other coast.
Why are you looking at me now?
Now I'm looking
I think she has some inside information.
Craig. Picking unobtainable people that aren't emotionally available or physically available, because that way you can't get rejected. Yeah, they're just nodding their heads.
Actually, I think for me,
notes.
just personally, it was more a fear of getting trapped into what I had before.
Well, indeed. Yeah, you were not happy in your relationship.
Yeah. My unconscious has been trying to everything it can not to let me get into another one.
Right. And so you're picking poor choices.
Right.
And that works. Either way, it's from fear.
Sure.
So, okay. And what do you think now that you're creating this fearless existence, or moving through, feeling the fear and moving through it, what's going to change in your relationships?
Well, the antidote for me to fear is trust.
And you know what I say about that? See, most people are looking for a guarantee in their relationship. Mm-hmm. They're looking for somebody that they can trust.
Promise you'll never, ever hurt me.
That's right. Promise you won't hurt me, you won't control me, you won't leave me, whatever it is that our fear is. And the reality is we actually can't trust anybody that way. Nobody can ever guarantee you they're never going to do X, Y, or Z.
Quite the opposite, actually. I can guarantee if you don't want to ever be hurt or let down, don't be in relationship, because the only guarantee in relationship is that there will be hurts.
Yeah, because even if you find your soulmate and it's perfect and it's wonderful, one of you is going to die.
Yeah.
Unless it's you first and it's quick, there's going to be pain involved in that departure.
Right.
So we're not going to get out of this unscathed.
Right. Mine was trust of myself.
Right. Well, I was going to say, and then the next thing is, so if we can't trust others, that means we trust ourselves, right? We hear that all the time. Well, you got to trust yourself. Craig.
Well, I never had a problem trusting others. I just didn't trust myself.
Well, listen to this, Craig. You know why? Because we lie all the time.
No.
Yeah. We lie all the time. We lie to ourselves all the time. And if you lie to yourself all the time, you're not impeccable with your word. How do you trust yourself? You know, and so what do I mean by we lie all the time? Joshua, you want to have a...
I look pretty sexy in these jeans. Is that what you mean?
No.
Not like that, huh?
No. What would be a lie to self?
A lie to self. Well, I've got to think here. A lie to self. I'm never going to be loved. I mean, that type or a different direction?
Right. Well, I mean, there's so many, right? Like, I'm going to go work out today.
Right.
And then you don't.
Things like that.
I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z. And then you do. I'm going to pay my bills on time. And then you don't. Whatever. So
I'm going to write those letters and actually get this project moved forward.
Yeah. Right. So from tiny to big, there are lies that we tell ourselves all the time and others. Oh, I was late because of traffic. Not because I was, watching the last part of that TV show and just didn't make it. So trusting self requires impeccability with self. This is what Tantra of Self is all about, is learning how to be impeccable with your word and how to, like Don Miguel Ruiz, the 4 agreements, we believe in living that. And when you start to trust yourself, you can also when you start to stop lying, you can start to trust yourself. And when you start to trust yourself, you can also start to let go of fear. Because no matter what, you know you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, a huge component. One of those things that's so missing when we do therapy and we do all of these things, very few people address how impeccable are you being with yourself? Mm-hmm. And that does include, I'll never find anybody to love, which is crap, or I'm not attractive enough to be loved, or whatever it is, those lies that we tell ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like, every woman will control me, right? Which was the fear that you would not pick the right person.
Right.
Right? That somehow, because you were in one relationship that didn't work for you, that your next one's going to be the same.
Right.
So how did you come to gather? I mean, what were some of the defining moments that made you go? Because you're ready now to trust yourself.
Oh, I have been. It, like I said, is accumulation of ahas, the birdies, some of these other, all these things you've been teaching the folks. I've been hearing on your guys' show here. I can't pick any one thing. It's just been a slow process. An
evolution.
Yeah, an evolution. A lot of your advice to breathe, where I get the information from my head into my body as you're thinking about something, and if you're breathing deeply, it has a very good chance of sinking in.
So you're talking taking that knowledge from the head and actually integrating it into the body.
Period.
Because if you don't, you're going to run into the same thing over and over. When I talked to the men's class last week in Vancouver, it was great, by the way. It was really awesome. Those guys were amazing. And all of them there had read tons of information on women. All of them there had run tons of information on, bettering themselves. I looked at them and I said, you guys in this room have a vast amount of knowledge. You guys have all the knowledge in the world. And let me ask you a question. Has it been useful? And they're all like shaking their heads, just like going, no.
Wow.
No, because I said, are you in the same place really basically as you were? You've spent all this money and all this time gathering all this knowledge, and you feel like you're here in this class. Why?
Right. They should be teaching it at that point with all of that information.
Exactly.
Integrated? Integrated?
Right.
You know what? That brings up you hit a hot button for me.
Go for
There are tons of people out there who are just repeating words that they heard from other people and not living it. So I'm big on following people who do it, and that's why I'm here.
Right. Thank you for that. Yeah, we, it's something that my practice, my personal practice is these steps. And, like I am a human, and so I am not perfect. Of course, I'm not really trying to be either. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Though I think that it is really important that you do follow all of these steps, and your personal practice has to reflect that. You can't just talk about it.
There are lots of people out there, and I can smell them a mile away now. I couldn't before.
Right. They're talking the talk.
Right.
but they don't have it
regurgitating
integrated.
information.
Right. Right. Well, there's no necessarily an original thought out there so much anymore. Right. But, if you're going to regurgitate information, at least regurgitate good information. And cite it.
An interesting thing that I heard you say there, Craig, as a professional, you can smell a mile away when someone is not walking the talk. It's almost like you don't even have to walk up to them and say hi to recognize that they're really just making a business out of repeating what other people have done.
Yep.
Your trust of yourself to choose a woman to have a relationship with that you can trust.
Actually, I don't worry about trusting her.
That you can trust yourself to make the right choice.
Bingo.
And that down the road, it's going to be a good choice that you made. Interesting. As we integrate this information into our body, we breathe not just today, but down the road in that relationship. My commitment is not to be a perfect man, but to breathe when I feel my fear coming up. To trust myself to do that rather than I have to be perfect, because
I trust myself to stay open to explore this dysfunction I want to work through with my partner.
Right.
I trust that we can work through it.
And if
I can find someone like that.
Yeah, and if you come to a place in the relationship where you've been breathing, and rather than getting into anger and accusation, you go, wow, this is an amazing learning place. You will either decide to stay in the relationship or move out of the relationship, but that you've trusted yourself to live. Not get it right, but to live.
Right, and I think so many people are so afraid to get things wrong without realizing we are getting things wrong. We're getting things wrong all the time. One guarantee I can give you out there is you're getting it wrong somewhere along the line. So, give yourself a pat on the back because you're a human being.
You're at least doing that right.
Doing that right, getting it wrong, because that is true. When you stay open and when you breathe and when you say, I trust myself to be open to the exploration of the partnership. That's
my own failings.
And your failings and your whatever, your
weaknesses.
Successes, your weaknesses.
Right.
You got to understand, we pick relationships to work through things. I mean, if you're in a relationship that's not working through anything, I don't know what's happening in that relationship. I mean, there might not be any passion. There might not be a whole lot going on. So if I were you, I would say, if you're in a relationship right now, I would look at your partner or go home and see your partner, whatever, and say, you know what? Thank you. I am so grateful to be in this relationship with you and working through this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't work through it now, it's still going to be there when you go to the next one. Because the common denominator is
me.
You. It's Josh, because it's always about Joshua.
Hey, but I don't get to look at myself in the window today.
I know, we've got him facing the other way. So, I mean, that's the truth, right? If you can look and say, gosh, okay, I'm in a relationship, relationships are going to trigger. That's what I found, being single, you can do this work, and I've told you that. You can do this work, and we can move through this process together and create this. But what I've always said is, wait, when you're in relationships, we're really going to get to do the work, right?
Oh.
Yeah, because,
maybe that's been one of my blocks.
Yeah, because I said that. It's like, okay, I'll just do this.
Just kidding.
You can get really far on your own, and Tantra is a solo practice to start because really you're responsible for yourself. Ultimately, though, creating a synergy with another person brings in everything else into the mix, and that's when you can do some big growth, or like having a child. And we all know having a child really takes us through some big experiences. Are we parroting? I said I'd never be like my mother and blah, blah, blah. Here it is coming out of my mouth.
You did say that, didn't you?
Yeah. And, I'd never be like this and blah, blah, blah. There it is coming out of my mouth. It's another level of consciousness. And as the levels go, awareness, self, relationship, business, because we have to go through those to have those realizations. In each of those categories brings a different thing. In business, it's about money, right? It's about facing fears of success. It's about, can we take enough action? Do we have the guts to ask for raises, or do we have the guts to create another product? Whatever it is. And then beyond that, life mastery, which is the ability to take all this information out of your head and synergize it into your body. We are going to take a break, and we will be back in just a moment.
I'm too sexy for your party, too sexy for your party. The way I'm disco dancing
Is your sex life non-existent? Do sexual dysfunctions leave you soft? Is internet porn getting more than you are? Or are you paying more attention to porn than your partner? Have you tried talk therapy and it got you nowhere? You are not alone. You can be freed from sexual shame, guilt, and dissatisfaction. A visit to the Tantra Teacher is in order. Call now and mention you heard the Tantra Teacher on the radio and get a very special offer. Stop waiting for a miracle and call right now. 206-276-2735. Phone consultations or in person will get you the information you need to be successful in your love life. But you have to call now. 206-276-2735. Stop making excuses. Call the Tantra Teacher. 206-276-2735.
Are you one of the 40 million sexless couples in the U.S.? Are you wondering why having sex leaves you feeling lonely? Are you suffering from the myths of sexual dysfunction? Do you know in your heart that there has to be more than what you're currently getting out of making love? To rid yourself of sexual ignorance, get more out of your lovemaking, and find out more about spiritual sexual connection, then you need to check out www.thetantrateacher.com to receive your free copy of the ebook called Secrets of the Tantra Teacher. Don't suffer another minute without the sexual loving and ecstatic bliss you were born to receive. Get to www.thetantrateacher.com right now. That's www.thetantrateacher.com.
Did you know that you can rate this show on iTunes? The show you're listening to right now. It's true. You can leave your thoughts about the show, the topic, the guest. You can even leave a suggestion. Then, before you leave, rate the show. The hosts love hearing from you, so next time you download this show from iTunes, leave your thoughts and rate the show for the host and for others.
I'm too sexy for your party. Too sexy for your party. No way I'm disco dancing.
I just found out that you guys there that are subscribing to this show on you've got it on your iPod, you're going to iTunes, you can rate the show. That's really scary.
So what fear does that bring up for you, Tanya?
Well, I was fine with rate the show, rate the topic, and then they were like, rate the guests and the host. It's like, oh, okay. So if you're out there, rate us and tell us.
Bring it
on what you think about the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy show. And we're hanging out with Craig and Joshua, and Craig, long-term student, Joshua, shorter-term student and team member, and Craig, you're an honorary team member of Team Tantra. So,
thank you. Yes,
you know,
because
you're my business mentor. So that's awesome. I think mentoring and coaching is an awesome thing. You know, I was never one of those people that believed in that because I had to reinvent the wheel myself. Mm-hmm. When I met you, I'd been trying to reinvent the wheel for a long time. And I remember, you're like, this is, you just follow this plan. And I'm like, well, okay, but that's the plan. What about my plan? What about this other plan? And so that was never working so well. And I don't remember if I had a breakthrough. I had the breakthrough where it was like, oh, if all these people are successful doing this and I did that, maybe I would be successful too.
Wow.
So what does I got to do? Coaching and mentors. You've got them. I've got them. They help.
It's the key to everything I've done.
Right.
All my successes.
And isn't that weird? Because there's so many people out there just trying to struggle on their own or attempting to just go, I can do this myself. I can reinvent the wheel. And how much faster is it with a proven plan?
Much faster. You take your talent, you apply it to that outline, modify it after you have success.
Well, after you, right. If you feel like you have to modify something after you're successful, whether it's successful in your life or finding a lover or your sex life or your business, right, then do whatever you want. But why would you change it then either?
Right.
Wow, that got me some success. Let me try something different. Ooh, that didn't work so well. The reason I'm bringing this up is, I've got the Inner Circle program and my year-long coaching program, and I've got some 2 to 3 month coaching programs that I do. And it was real interesting that when I got with this group of guys in Vancouver who they were all from a coaching program from another company, and they really got the benefit of being coached and being taken through a process, being accountable and taken through a process so that they were guaranteed success. And you've coached with a lot of different people, right?
Yeah, including you. I'm about my 5th or 6th coach right now.
Right.
Just in the last 5 years.
Right. And, tell us a little bit about it. I mean, why?
Well, it started from lack and fear and just frustration and not knowing what to do. And I'd always had the idea from my corporate experiences, I can figure this out, which was my, I need to reinvent. That was
right.
Now, that's useful in some situations, but sometimes figuring it out means dialing the phone and get somebody who knows how to do it.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
My second coach, he said something just amazing that I hear it in my head even right now to this day. He said, the best performers on the planet have a coach. What makes you think you can get by without one?
Right.
The best athletes, the best top business people in the world.
Right.
They look for someone who's better than them to coach them.
Right.
And even the people at the top of the business world look for spiritual coaches it just doesn't end. It's never ending.
So we should look at mentors, coaching. We used to have them. We used to be in tribe. When we lived in tribes, we had built-in mentors and coaches. We had mentors, not so much coaches, but you certainly had coaches when the men took you out hunting. When you were a boy and learned how to hunt in a tribe, you had coaches or mentors with elder women that helped you with your child rearing. Now we're trying to do everything by ourselves. We're trying to do everything based on our puny experience of life, which was limited in our childhood, role modeled by our parents.
Even the story within tribal cultures, the storytelling are all guides to help people of all ages through life. We talk about using hypnotherapy and reality coaching. The old tribal stories were
hypnotherapy and reality therapy, right? They were doing it right there.
So where did this separation start, do you think?
When we started putting walls up, I wrote an essay a long time ago about how walls, literal walls in the house, so physical walls, created emotional and mental walls. Because when everything was more in the open and we lived and birthed and died and, made love and things were more like real, like people knew you did that and it wasn't freaky and weird. If somebody was stepped out of the quote unquote norm of that society, they were nailed right there and then. You could see what was normal or what was natural or what was because you were living in the middle of it. As soon as they started putting up walls, as soon as people started isolating and sequestering themselves into private areas that didn't have bigger tribes, we stopped knowing what was norm. Norm for us then became what we experienced. So if you were sexually abused as a child, that would have been normal to you because that's the only thing you knew. Now, if that wouldn't have happened in an opener society, unless it was the norm for the society.
But what's the cause of us putting up these walls? Did I miss something here? What you just said when we started putting up walls.
Yeah, and why did we?
Yeah,
because
how did that happen? What's the cause of that?
Gosh, I wish I knew. That's a great why did we put up walls? What do you think?
I have no idea. I'm not old enough to know when that happened.
I'm
really young.
Yeah. When they started, they first started putting up tents. So those were in a sense walls. I'm sure caves had some walls, but the concept of living in our own little nucleuses came from the affluent.
And the concepts of moving from tribal society that separated out into, I guess, more broad spread agriculture. So whether it was a village, a town with houses, but everybody was living close, and farmed around the town versus, okay, you own this farm. So ownership was part of the branch off of that.
Right. And I think, for here, we've got to go way back, but, how to keep people contained, so there could have been an actual, containment. Somebody get on Facebook or somebody email me. If you're listening to this show and you know this is your subject, you know something about this, drop me an email at Tanya at
learningtantra.com. Because I've seen the difference in my life when I was a kid. And I'm 46, and there's folks in my generation who would say, that your neighbor's parents could whoop you just the same as your mom and dad.
Right.
And you are safe at your friend's house just the same as you were at yours.
Right.
That's not the case near anymore. So something's happened in the last 30,
Well, even
40,
in the last it's
30,
called,
40 years.
It's called fear. Well, fear is one
What's the cause of that? We need some help, folks.
yeah.
We need a sociologist
One of
here.
the elders that I studied with for a brief period of time when I used to teach nature awareness, native awareness, Ingwe grew up in a family of British descent in East Africa, but his playmates were the Akamba people. And so, unbeknownst to his parents, he was spending the evenings and the afternoons listening to stories and hunting. And his perception was that when it went from being tribal living to living in towns,
Well, right.
when people went from living on the plains, even if it was a hut or a tent, but still in the dance and the storytelling and the nightly getting together, waking up in the morning together, and all of a sudden everybody had to have their own house.
Well, it became property. How to contain your property, whether it's your farming equipment or whatever. How to hold things. Okay. How to hold your cattle. How to hold your horses. Where to put your chickens. Right. So where to hold your people.
Right.
And
if everybody's
so
not taking care of everybody else.
Ownership of isolate personal ownership, and not everything is a tribe thing. We're all together. Now we're all separate. I'm making money so I can buy some more things than you can, right? This is my stuff. It became a me. This is my stuff. And we are suffering. We are suffering in this experience.
How does it translate into the dysfunction in the bedroom?
Well, it's just because, once again, once you have
or the
these
kitchen or wherever you
dysfunction in the kitchen.
Right.
Once you have these walls up, you no longer have a good indication of what's norm. In America, we have 40 million plus sexless couples. So kids growing up in sexless marriages, seemingly sexless, grow up to think that's the norm in a marriage and a relationship. Right now, in the media, single people have sex. When you're young and single, you have lots of sex everywhere, right? So much, in fact, that there's teen pregnancies, STDs, all of these horrible things happening to all our young people because that's considered normal. But once you're in a relationship, it's sexless.
Well,
this is kind of twisted.
some married people are having sex. We see it in the media, but they're not having sex with the person.
With
they're
their
married
partner.
with.
Yeah,
They're
that's
having
right.
sex with other people.
They're having lots of sex.
Multiple other people
out there, not in their
So
partnerships.
there's
right.
no disclosure and communication about intimacy within relationships. So people grow up without any context of communicating about intimacy.
Right. So, all of this, basically fear rules, fear of somebody's going to take my stuff, so I got to lock my door. Fear of somebody's going to see what I'm doing, so I better lock my door. Fear of somebody's going to hear me. Fear of not getting too close. And we have put those same walls on ourselves. The same walls on our hearts, the same walls on our psyches to not let people in because we're afraid. We hear in the media of all the crime and all the horrible things. We don't hear of the good things. There's more good things happening than not good things happening. But nobody wants to hear that because we like to be scared in that way. We like to validate our darkest things, And maybe if we were friends with our darkest things, we wouldn't need to have them validated and hear about all that stuff all the time. Maybe we just go, there's enough darkness in there, and I can be okay with it. I can understand my fear. So, what do we need to do? Okay, you've come a long way, Craig.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And, you've decided to not kick and scream as much and kind of follow the plan more.
Good job.
He's not reinventing
Well
the
done.
Tantra wheel anymore. He's going to
I
jump
never
on.
tried to reinvent. I just flat out resisted.
He resisted.
I'm not going to breathe.
And so as you're starting on now and you've come to these, you're such a different person than 3 years ago when I met you.
Yeah.
How you look, how you walk, how you're perceived by people.
It's crazy, man. Women just notice it too.
Of course they notice it.
This is wild.
Well, you said teach me to be a man. I said I would do better than that.
You did.
Because teaching you to be a
Absolutely.
man would be one thing, but teaching you to be a man who all women love.
I had somebody tell me I was charming the other day. I never heard that before.
Yeah. there
How
you
cool
go.
was that?
Right.
I went, wow. Thank you, Tanya.
Nice.
I told all the guys in Vancouver, next time you're in the bedroom, you'll be thinking about me.
And your question, Craig, what does this have to do with sex? What does this have to do with the bedroom? Interesting. All these different things, ranging from breathing whenever we have something come up, or integrity, getting in alignment. You came in talking about your attitude. You've got a new attitude of fear, bring it on.
Yeah.
New, bring it on.
Yeah.
Something I don't know, bring it on. And women are noticing you, and something that's different than that you used to be perceived.
How different than most men are walking around.
Right.
That's what women are noticing about him, is basically not only facially have you changed because the tension is gone.
Yeah.
You know, when the fear leaves, the facial features and body posture changes. And that can be enough to turn you from, you've always been a good-looking man. Now you're, a hot, good-looking man because you're like, so,
Thump, thump,
There you go.
And that's the difference, because you can take the same man and he can become unattractive to women because he's in such fear and tension that he looks suspect.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, what's he worried about?
I'm always amazed at how you women can pick this stuff up.
Yeah.
That's just amazing to
Yeah.
me.
Well,
Those
I want to say,
subtleties.
we've got 4 minutes left. We talked about a lot of stuff. The main thing we've talked about is there are people out there that are afraid. And you know it. You're out there. You know you're afraid. And you understand that your fear is something that keeps you from moving forward. I'm here to tell you that everything you do affects everything else you do. So if you're afraid in your business, chances are it's affecting your sex life and the rest of your life. If you're afraid in your sex life, you're afraid in other places too. We try to compartmentalize everything, and the reality is you can't do it. We are full human beings that need to fully integrate all our knowledge through our entire bodies. And this may sound daunting. You might be listening and go, I have no idea how to do that. That's why there's coaching. That's why there's mentoring.
Yep.
That's why there's this radio show, why there are classes, teleconferences, webinars, people teaching how to move past not the fear, but how to move past the thing that keeps you being afraid of fear. Because that's what it really is. Being afraid of being afraid. And we don't have to be that way, because fear hasn't killed any of us yet. Anyway, right? Certainly not me, not Craig, not Josh.
We're hanging in there.
Right. So what I want you to do is I want you to sit down for a moment, and I want to think about where fear is holding you back, and the things you do that you react to that you don't know why you're reacting to. They're probably fear. Are you getting angry a lot? Are you isolating a lot? Are you keeping yourself at home and not finding the love of your life because you're afraid? Or maybe you're not having the sex life you want because you're afraid to ask for what you need. There's help. Definitely, you can do this. Thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you for having me.
For
Josh,
being here.
Tanya.
And Joshua, of course. And I want to just talk a little bit about, we've got the Women of Wisdom Conference coming up, February 13th, 1:30 to 3:30. I will be speaking about women and the art of Tantra. So if you're in the Seattle area, you want to definitely get to that. I will be audio recording it, so if it's something you don't want to miss, that's going to be available afterwards to be able to download. And you can go to womenofwisdom.org to get your tickets to that event. There are going to be a lot of great people there. And I've got an Intro to Tantra class the weekend after that in Seattle, a women's Tantra class next weekend after that, my couples intimacy weekend, which is really phenomenal up on the Sunshine Coast in a yurt, fabulous, great class coming up in March 5th. And the book is finally going to be here.
The book.
And I'll tell you more about that next week. Have a great one, and meet us back here. We're out now.
You have been listening to the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show with your host, Tanya Diamond. Visit our website at www.tanyadiamond.com. That's TANJA for more information on workshops and classes.